Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and tonight I thought I would share with you guys my favorite weird books. Not just weird books, but weird books with weird women in them. It's been a subgenre that I've been really interested in. These go across many different genres, but the thing they all have in common is that they're weird, and the women are weird in the best possible way. If you've been around here for a while, you might have seen the book talks on many of these books, but I thought I would combine them all together here for you today, so you don't have to go looking for them all separately. And also to invite you in the comments to recommend me any weird books about weird women that you've read and that you loved, and that you think I might love based on these ones. So, without further ado, let's just jump on into it. These are in no particular order. I love them all, except for the final two. Well, final three. They're all by the same author, so we'll get to that when we get to it. The first one I want to talk about is My Husband by Maud Ventura. I loved this book. First of all, that cover is unhinged. And you'll see a trend with another one of the books I mentioned here. This off-kilter, unhinged text on book covers, I really love. I find it, I just love it. I love the color and the way it matches the eye. It's just beautiful. This book is about a woman. Is she named? I'm not entirely sure if she's named. But she's 40 years old and she has a husband, as the title would tell you, and she's obsessed with him in the worst possible way. Like, obsessed, but not that obsession's ever good, but she's truly obsessed in a way that, like, in a bad way. Everything he does irritates her, and everything she reads into it, right? And this book it takes place over, I think, a week, when she thinks that her husband's going to be leaving her. And it's just a look into their relationship throughout this week, and it's absolutely bonkers. And there's a twist at the end that makes so much sense once you read it, but I didn't see it coming, and I thought it was fantastic. Would recommend. Next up, we have The Pisces by Melissa Broder. This is the only book by Melissa Broder that I've read so far, but I loved it. This one's wacky too. So this is about a woman named Lucy, and she has been working on getting her PhD for 9 years. Like, it's time for her to clue it up, and they're getting ready to kick her out of the program. So anyway, her sister, who lives in a different town, offers her, like, why don't you come to my apartment for the summer and dog sit my dog. Her and her husband are going away, and so Lucy thinks this is the great opportunity to come kind of get away for it all, clear her head, and get some work done. So off she goes. She's dog sitting this dog, and she starts going to the beach at night, and she ends up meeting a merman. And it's wild. It's a wild story. She ends up falling in love with him. And as time goes on, she sees how that's not a good thing, how that could never work, especially once, we reach the buildup of what his plans are. And I just thought it was so interesting. Like, I don't even know where you'd come up with the idea for this book. I thought it was great. And I will say there's a scene, if you're sensitive to animal death, there is a scene in this you might want to avoid this book entirely, but I thought it was just very interesting. This book I annotated a ton. There were so many passages I underlined, because though the setup and the situation for this book is ridiculous, the author has such beautiful insights into life and what it means to be a person and a woman. And I thought it was fantastic. And I'm going to have to ask you to forgive me because I am sweating. It's September, but we're having this really weird short heat wave. It's going to last 5 days, and then the temperature is going to drop off, and I am sweating tonight. All right, that's a little better. I had to put my hair up. Anyway, I forgot to mention before we put this one away, this book was recommended to me by one of you guys, Brandy. So thank you, Brandy. I loved it. This one was also a recommendation from one of you guys, and this is Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. This one is sort of speculative fiction. It takes place in the future, and it's about a woman named Cassie, and she has a job she hates that's really kind of going nowhere. The world is literally falling apart outside, and like outside her door, and she has a black cloud following her around wherever she goes. Wherever she, like a literal one. Not a black cloud, sorry, a black hole following her around wherever she goes. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. She uses a lot of drugs to try to keep it reined in. And of course, the black hole is a very on-the-nose representation of depression and mental illness. And I thought this book was beautiful. It's weird in all the right ways. It was a fun story. That's dark, but also so entertaining. And I would definitely recommend. Next up, I did this one for my podcast, and it's got a ton of tabs in there. This is Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. This was the first Otessa Moshfegh that I ever read, but I definitely want to read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. If you've read that one, let me know what you thought of it and if I should read it. And this was very interesting. This is about an older woman named, I can't remember her name. It was a while ago that we read this one. But so it's an older woman, and one day when she's out for a walk with her dog, she finds a note in the woods that says, like, I killed her. No one will ever find out. Here's her body, basically. But there's no body, just this note. And this sends this woman on a spiral. She spirals after reading this note. She begins, like, trying to communicate back with the writer of the note. She goes to the library to try to get information. She begins to form ideas in her mind about the people. Like, the entirety of this book takes place in this woman's mind. And, like, we learn that she had a husband who has since passed on, which is why she's now living in this cabin in the woods. And, you know, it's mentioned she used to be on medication, but after he died, she stopped taking the medication so that she could fully feel her grief. And now we're just like, okay, so she's just out of it. And it's sad, and it's a lot, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. Next is my most recent read, and again with this like unhinged print on the cover. What is that? All Fours by Miranda July. Speaking of unhinged. But this was great. This is about a woman who is going on a road trip from LA to New York because she's got a work thing in New York. She gets on the road because she wants to prove to herself and her husband that she can do this. She can be a driver. And instead of a parker, which is a whole thing from their dinner party conversation. And she wants to, you know, take those jumps, those leaps, and do things she wouldn't normally do. So she's going on this road trip. She gets 30 minutes outside of town when she pulls off, and she makes it no further. She ends up spending 3 weeks in this small town where she meets a young man and has a whole emotional thing with him. He's also married. Then she goes home, and it becomes this whole journey of trying to figure out who she is and what she wants in this life while she's still living it. And I thought it was beautiful and sad and gross and embarrassing, and fantastic, and I definitely would recommend. Next up we have Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. This, first of all, look at that cover. That's a majestic cover. So beautiful. This is about a woman whose mother-in-law has recently passed away, and her husband has a very poor reaction to this loss and this grief. and she begins to think that her mother-in-law's ghost is haunting the house and it's affecting her husband, and it's all it's a whole thing. This one you need to go listen to the book talk too if you want the whole tea on it, because it's too much to get into here. It's just too much. Cannibalism becomes a part of it. You know, it's a lot. So there you go. Check that one out. Speaking of cannibalism, which, let me tell you, isn't a sentence I say often. Next up, we've got A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This is a book, again, a beautiful cover. It's a book about a woman named Dorothy who is telling us her story from prison. And what her story entails is seducing men and eating them. What more can I tell you? It was great. I loved it. Next up, we have Big Swiss by Jen Bean. This is about a woman named Greta who is a transcriptionist for a therapist. So he gives her all the notes from his appointments and the recordings, and she types them up. While doing this, she falls in love. Sorry, guys. She falls in love, or becomes enamored, with one of his clients, a woman that she refers to as Big Swiss. And she can't get enough of this woman. And then one day when she's in a dog park, she ends up accidentally meeting her. And thus begins their friendship/relationship predicated on a lie, because she pretends she doesn't know who she is. And it becomes a whole thing from there. It was weird. It's got one of my favorite side characters that I've read in a long time, and it's Greta's roommate, whose name I can't remember right now, but I love her. I love her so much. I thought the ending was great. I thought it was realistic, and I loved every minute of reading this. This was actually a recommendation from my 20-year-old daughter, because she also loved it. And finally, the queen of weird books about weird women. Why do I say it like that? The queen of weird books about weird women. We have Mona Awad. First and most popular, of course, we have Bunny. Look at the way Bunny is stabbed. I've read Bunny 3 times now. Every time I get something new from it, every time I love it more than the time before. I don't even know how to tell you about Bunny. Bunny's about a girl named Samantha who is going to a fancy New England college, and she's getting like a fine arts degree in writing. And there's a group of girls also in this program, and they call themselves the Bunnies. And they are a group of beautiful girls. You know, they look perfect. They smell amazing. They're those girls, you know. And Samantha's very much like the outcast. Like, she's not a part of that group until one day she's invited into that group. She gets an invite to join their club, the Smut Salon, where they read things that each other has written. And they transform bunnies, like the rabbits, into boys. And oh my, I love this book so much. It's so off-putting, and it's so good, and it's like a fever dream. It's like you're the sickest you've ever been, and you fall asleep, and this is what you come up with. And Mona Awad, I love you. I love you. I love this. Which also brings me to All's Well by Mona Awad. This is about a woman named Miranda who, she is ill. She has like chronic illnesses, chronic fatigue syndrome, And she's also like the drama teacher at a high school, and they want to put off a play. And the students want to do Macbeth, and the teacher wants to do All's Well That Ends Well. And this becomes like a twisted fairy tale type of story. I've only read this one once, but I'm looking forward to soon reading it again because I loved it. I loved it. It hasn't gotten the work over yet that Bunny's gotten with the tabs. And like there's tabs, but also inside there's post-it notes. Like I go hard for Bunny. This one's getting that next. And then thirdly, we have Rouge by Mona Awad. I don't have a hard copy, physical copy of that one yet because I read it as a digital e-arc before it came out. And I loved that one as well. It's about a woman whose mother has recently passed away, and she has to go to her mother's apartment to sort of get everything worked out and cleaned out and settled. And she finds that her mother was a part of this very interesting group of people. And from there, it just kind of picks up. There's a lot of commentary about beauty and the beauty community on the internet and the beauty community in general, and youth and aging, and Tom Cruise is a big part of it. And I absolutely loved that one as well. So I gotta get a physical copy of that one soon. But yeah, Mona Awad for me is the queen of the weird books about the weird ladies. Look how beautiful this cover is too. And like this one, like I can't wait to see what comes next from Mona. So there you go, you guys. Despite being an absolute sweaty mess, I had to get on here tonight. I couldn't wait out those 4 or 5 heat wave days. I couldn't do it. I needed to talk to you right now. I needed to tell you about them right now. Anyway, I hope you are having a good day. You're probably not seeing this until tomorrow. It's Friday night as I'm filming it. You're probably not seeing it till Saturday or Sunday, but I hope your weekend's great. I hope you're doing well. Leave me your weird book recommendations down below. Tell me if you've read any of these, and if you have, which one's your favorite. And leave a rabbit emoji in the comments, just so I know you made it this far, if you did. And if you did, I love you. So thanks so much. And I will see you again real soon. Bye.